So last lesson we talked about our separated Veeam traffic zone fundamental. And I explained we should add another VM network to your ESXi, and of course we'll add our Veeam backup server to the new separated zone. For that separated zone, we will use 192.168.2.0/24 subnet mask. And this is our production network IP address, which it was VMnet 0. We will add VMnet 2 for separated zone. And also we had virtual switch 0 for production network, and we'll add vSwitch 1 for separated zone. Let's jump right to designing this structure step by step. And here is the lab: Veeam backup server, ESXi1 and DC1. Before we go any further, keep in mind that you should take a snapshot. And also you should take a snapshot from your ESXi in your lab. In case of disaster, in case of something wrong happen, or if you don't like to continue your course with this separation network. I already took a snapshot from my entire Veeam lab. Second, we will add Veeam backup new VM network. This VMnet 0 is going to be for our production environment based off diagram. Here, VMnet 0 with this IP address. We will add the second one. And we point it to VMnet 2 for separation network. Again, VMnet 2 separated Veeam zone with this new IP address. So we'll go to configuration network in Veeam backup server, and we'll see the new network adapter. We'll give it a new IP address, which is going to be 220. So the first IP address is going to be 192.168.120 for production network. And this is going to be our separation zone. We don't have DNS here in our separated zone. Great. So now we can ping our local IP address. This is for separated zone, and here for our production. Great. And we'll go to vCenter server to add the new management network for ESXi, because we want to connect this Veeam backup server to new management network and forget about the production management network. So we'll go to our vCenter server and we'll add the networking here. So in ESXi1 we'll add network here. And VM kernel network adapter is going to be for host management. So next, we'll add the new virtual switch based on our design. vSwitch 1 for separated zone. Next, and here we'll add this new network adapter card here, which is going to be our VMnet 2. This VMNIC 1. Okay, and next, and let's call it Veeam separate. Veeam separate network, and we'll click on management. And next, and we'll assign a new IP address. And based on our lab, we should use this IP address 192.168.2.1. Like our Veeam backup server. And next, and finish. Now we can ping our new ESXi IP address with Veeam Backup Server. Great. So simply we can add this ESXi to our Veeam Backup Server. So here in inventory, VMware infrastructure, we'll add the server. We'll add our ESXi server. And the credential, which is going to be root. Certificate warning, continue. And finish. And here we can see the virtual machine. You can easily add it to the new job. Great. So for your production environments, as I said, you have to add another physical network interface card of your host to the new VLAN. Just create a new VLAN for whatever ESXi that you have. For example, you have 10 or 20 or 100. You must plug from each server new network adapter to that specific separated zone or VLAN. So in your switch side, in your global configuration, just type VLAN 2 or any VLAN ID that you want. And you have to assign interfaces for that VLAN based on our number of hosts or Veeam Backup Server. Here in our design, we should assign 3 ports at least on that VLAN, which is going to be our separated VLAN. As you can see in your production environments, is easier than VM workstation. So we done the job, but in case of big network or heavy virtual infrastructure, what shall we do? The problem here actually, if you have 100 hosts, actually it's very hard to add them to our Veeam Backup Server. You should only add your ESXi. But we want to actually add our VCSA, like our production network. And we don't want actually to add a specific ESXi. So for a small virtualization, like less than 20 hosts, it would be okay. You can easily add your ESXi to your Veeam Backup Server. But we want to go for that complexity to add our VCSA. So at the first time, we should add our vCenter server a new adapter for separated zone. That means we will add another management network to our vCenter server to connect this Veeam Backup Server to our vCenter server here. So we'll right click and we'll remove it easily. We already deleted our vCenter server from our Veeam Backup Server. In our vCenter server, we'll right click and we'll edit the setting. And we'll add a new device, which is going to be our network adapter. Let me use maximum size here. As you can see here, we do not have our second virtual network because that virtual network was for management and we can only use it in our ESXi. Again, we will add networking. And this time we will use the second one, virtual machine port group for a standard switch. And we'll select existing standard vSwitch, which is going to be our vSwitch 1. Next. And here Veeam separate. Next. And finish. Now we can easily add our new network adapter card here. Which is going to be our Veeam separate. That's okay. That means we can assign the new IP address for our vCenter server by going to this IP address. Our vCenter server IP address colon 5480 port. And here we'll type our root password, which is going to be the same with our vCenter vsphere.local password. I mean this user for logging to the management vCenter server, and for managing our virtual appliance, we will type root and the same password for managing vCenter. And here we'll add new IP address. So we'll click on edit, VMnet 0, NIC 1. As you can see, this is going to be our production network, NIC 0. And we'll add the new IP address. And if you need gateway, you can add it here, save, which is going to be our new IP address for separated zone. So let's test it out. Right. That means we can add our vCenter server now. So we can add the IP address or host name. If you want to add your host name of your vCenter server, you should have your RODC or read-only domain controller in this separated zone. To connect all the infrastructure, I mean vCenter, Veeam Backup, your ESXi, to that RODC server, this RODC, which is read-only domain controller, would help you to resolve the infrastructure by the name. I mean ESXi, Veeam Backup, or vCenter server. So Veeam Backup very easily here in our hosts file, vimdir %system32 drivers etc. Here in hosts, we can easily manage this file. Now, as you can see, if I ping vcsa.lab.local, it refers to our production environment. We want to actually point it to our new IP address, which is separated zone. So here, 192.168.212 vcsa.lab.local. And again, for our ESXi, ESXi.lab.local. ESXi1, sorry. So as you can see, ESXi again refers to our production environment. The third oct is going to be 2 by changing this host file. Now, as you can see, it changed from 1 to 2. Again, for vCenter server, vcsa.lab.local, we can resolve by the new IP address. So let's type vcsa.lab.local. And again, the administrator privilege. Continue. I should mention that again, designing this structure in VM Workstation is harder than implementing in your production network, because you don't have to go to that complexity to actually adding virtual interface to your VM Workstation. And here we can see we can access that virtual machine. So let me paint here for you. So in your production network, actually here you have your Veeam Backup server. And here you have your switch. You will add the new VLAN. And you'll connect this interface to your new interface card of your ESXi. And this is for the second one. ESX1 and ESX2. And of course here in ESXi we have our vCenter server. And you will use other port for your production network, which one of them of course is going to be connected to your firewall. And again, some of them actually connected to your production network, for your ESXi. That means this VLAN, this 3 interface, could not access the data from your production VLANs. By making this structure, I can guarantee 100% that your Veeam backup data will not encrypt by ransomware. So first, you should never join it to the domain, and you should separate your Veeam server to a new VLAN, which is going to be layer 2 VLAN. That means this VLAN should not be routable to your network. If you want to be routable, you have to put one of your interface of your firewall here to that VLAN and set these structure, ESXi1, ESXi2, and your Veeam backup server, the default gateway of your firewall. Again, the question arises, why maybe you want this Veeam backup actually send the email notification? So here we can add a new backup for SQL Server. Let's call it SQL SRV. Next. Let me use maximum size. So next, again next, next, and apply and finish. And we will start the job. And here we can verify the traffic. So now, as you can see, we successfully took backup from our SQL Server by our separated zone. So before we finish this lesson, with this structure, separation zone, you cannot use application-aware processing and file indexing, because Veeam actually needed to directly connect it to your specific virtual machine. And this virtual machine actually is not in your separated zone. This is the difference, because it's only have one interface for your production network. That means this IP address cannot accessible by Veeam backup server to verify the application aware processing credential. Keep in mind that. Thanks for watching.